Welcome back to Roosevelt Live. This segment of the show, we're going to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. April the 4th marked 44 years since he was assassinated. He was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. The Lorraine balcony, the Lorraine Hotel on the balcony. You know, Dr. King was born January 15, 1929. He was assassinated April 4th, 1968. So he was 39 years old. Dr. King gave his life for something he believed in. Later on, 1974, his mother was assassinated in church while she played the organ, the piano. A lot of things happened, such a short span in a man's life that helped move the civil rights movement in this country. And sometimes when I look back and I think about those speeches and I think about the hard times that people had, and it wasn't just African Americans. People came down from the north. White people came down to fight a cause that they believed in too. Now, surely the majority of people were African American. That's what started the problem in the first place. But I never want people to forget that we were the only ones that lives was on the line, and some people lost their lives. Not as many, but the few that didn't have to be there. I want to recognize those people as well. But when I think back now, you know, at the time that happened, I was just a little kid. But you know, I've heard about it my whole life. I've been to Atlanta. I've been to the museum. I've been to the home that they have now as a museum too, where Dr. King grew up at. I've been inside of that home. I've stood by the original beds they said it was where Dr. King slept at and played as a kid in the home. And I thought about where we're at today as a race of people and as citizens of the United States of America. I said in the show once before here, sometimes I feel like we've come a long way. And sometimes I feel like it's just a boomerang. And we all know when you throw a boomerang, it always comes right back. Saying we start off and then we just circle back and come back to the same old stuff. I am, and tell my son almost every day, we talk about it weekly, about the freedoms that he has today because of the people that came before him and the people that came before me. And that's why I preach to him weekly about his education. I think he's turned the corner a little bit. Now he's taking college a little bit more serious than I think he did when he first got in there. His average is about a 3.5. I'm proud of that. So he's working hard. I think he's taking it more serious than he did, and I expected that because as a freshman in college last year, he maybe not ready, or just, you know, it's hard for young people to go to college and not have to worry about teachers telling them to come to school, or, you know, missing so many days from school you get in trouble. That's not going to happen over there. You're in college, you're on your own, you're a grown man. You got to act like you're a grown man. Now as he's finishing up his second year, in a few months he'll be a junior. He's on pace to graduate 6 months early. I'm happy. I'm happy that he's turned that corner. Because to me, education is the key. It's the key, but it doesn't open every door. But it is a key. Without education, you don't even have a key. Can you succeed in this world without educating? Of course you can. Do we suggest that you do that? No, I don't. Is it possible? Of course it is. The road is harder. I believe so. But I say that to say this because Dr. King truly was a doctor. He had a doctorate degree. He worked hard. He got an education. And a young man. He had already went through colleges and got his master's and bachelor's and doctorate and did it at a fast pace. He believed in education. My family and I believe in education. And I think the more people out here, irregardless of your race, need to believe in education as well. Everybody that doesn't go to college is not a failure. But I do believe that you should have some type of education. college if you can. If you can't, for whatever reasons, financially, maybe knowledge, trade schools. You have to have some type of a trade, because if not, you're just not going to make any money, basically, unless you somehow own your own business and able to be successful in that. And even that, you need to be educated, whether you get educated through a curriculum, or whether you get educated in the business that you're in. You still have to have knowledge of the business that you're in order to be successful. Therefore, you need education. And that's why I preach it so much, because I believe that in this country, the disparity within the education system is huge. And somehow young people, again, not just African Americans, young people in general, there's a lot of kids in college. College is very expensive. And it's getting more expensive every day. If you can't afford to send your kids to college, kids have to remember when they go out there and get those loans, that's huge. Because whether you finish or not, you're going to pay those loans back. And that puts kids at a disadvantage. Because even though somebody said, well, the loan, the interest rate is not that bad. But the point is, if I'm understanding it correctly, if you're 18 years old and you get a bunch of loans to go to college, and you get out of college at 21, 22, now you have 50, 60, 80, 100, $200,000 or more hanging over your head at 21, 22. You just getting into the workforce, and you got to start paying this money back. What somebody said 6 months out, you need to start paying this money back. So now you're in your early 20s, barely in your 20s. You got this huge debt that you're trying to pay back. You're just getting into your job, so you don't make necessarily a whole bunch of money. You're trying to have a car, a place to live, food, clothing, other amenities. It's hard for a young person, be male or female, to survive that. We have to do something about the education system in this country and stop beating kids over the head with this stuff until they're being discouraged or they're not going to school. A lot of kids that start off on these journeys don't be successful because they're not ready, they're not prepared. And even my own son, or my youngest son anyway, maybe I don't think he was really prepared, but because we're able to focus on him and stay on top of him every day to make sure he understands the importance of having that education. Because I'm always telling him, you may not never use that degree, but you'll always have it. And no one will ever be able to take it away from you. You will always have it. It can't get suspended. You can't be stripped of it. It will always be there. You will always have that degree, no matter what. Now, if you choose to not work in that field, which a lot of people don't, work in the field they have a degree in, but the degree is important to get those doors open to get to wherever. And I'm always on him about that, and I think he's learned from that. And why do I talk about that? Because it all goes back to, like I said, we're just looking at the 44th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King assassination in Memphis, Tennessee, the Lorraine Hotel on the balcony. At that time, African Americans barely got an opportunity to go to college. They just couldn't get there, and all kind of other barriers was in their way. George Wallace standing in the doors of the University of Alabama with his famous little speech about, segregation now, segregation forever, and whatever else he said. It comes a point in our life where people were thirsting for education back then, and the doors were being slammed in their faces. Now the doors are open, and we seem to be turning our back on education. Not everybody, but some people are. I speak to young kids off and on, and they seem to not think education is important. They don't even seem to think having a job is important. They don't really seem to think much of anything is too important. And that's just some kids. Because if you can't go to college, you can't afford it, or you're not at the level maybe you should be to go there, there is opportunity to maybe go into the military if you can get through the military exam and then the physicalness of the military basic training and physical in itself. If not, like I said again, then people need to try some type of a trade school. Because at the end of the day, the gap between the haves and the have-nots are growing every day. And it just keeps spawning out of control. And we better do something. And we better do something in a hurry if we plan on surviving this world that we live in and plan on being productive citizens in society. Let's face it, life is a domino effect. If you don't get an education, and you think you're doing good, making, low income. You have kids, and somehow you don't think it's important that they get an education. And it becomes a domino effect. You have to educate your children. They have to educate their children. At least that's the hopes and dreams anyway. That we continue to educate. Start falling behind. And following the footsteps of Dr. Martin Luther King. Where we was hoping that, and as he said, and that I think about and intertwine this with that Trayvon Martin case that we talked about earlier. Because if we were being judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin, I don't think Trayvon Martin would be dead, and I don't think George Zimmerman would have got out of his vehicle. But we'll never know, because we can't turn back time. We'll never know what George Zimmerman would have did. We'll never know Trayvon Martin didn't have an opportunity to grow up, to have a family, to get married, to have kids, to celebrate things, to see his 21st birthday come along. He never got that opportunity. This is a serious issue. Am I intermingling these conversations together? Some people may say you're going from conversation to conversation. No, it's always a thread between the lines of what I'm talking about. We got to stop looking at people to the point that Zimmerman looked at Trayvon Martin and drew all those conclusions based on him walking down the street that he had every right to be on. The contents of one's character, as Dr. King says, not the color of one's skin. So many times, I think, and I say again, we'll come so far, then it boomerangs. We'll go right back to the same stereotyping. Go right back to the same old things that put us in this situation we were in before. Yes, I can speak. I can give my opinions. And I can be on the TV station. I can say what I want to say within reason. But that doesn't change the fact that the United States on a whole, we need race relations in this country. We really need to stop hiding behind things and talk about race relations. Now, one of the reasons why I think people don't talk about race relations is because the races will never agree. Because we're going to always see things differently. But like I heard the mayor of Sanford say the other day, when a guy asked him, an African American guy asked him, did he understand how the African American felt about the Trayvon Martin case? And he said to him, I could never walk in your shoes, but I can walk alongside of you. Somebody might say, what does that mean? Well, he's making it clear. Look, he's not African American. He ain't pretending to be one. He can't pretend to feel what someone else feels. But what he's saying is that the best he could do, he can walk alongside of the person that's in these shoes. Can't walk in his shoes, but he can walk alongside of him while he's in those shoes. And that's the closest you're going to get. That's why we don't have race relations in this country. Because what we feel is one thing, and what other people feel is something different. I've made my position clear many a times. I don't believe in free programs unless it's for people that really need it, like people that have disabilities or elderly people, irregardless of what we feel like they should have did better for planning for their future. It's irrelevant. They need it. But people out here in these United States that are fleecing America, because America is allowing this crap to happen. People out here, single males with no physical ailments, are getting $250 a month in food stamps with no wife, no kids. Why would that be? That's an unnecessary amount of money being given away. Some $5,000, $6,000, what is it, $1,000 a month? No, $250 a month. My bad. So whatever that number adds up to in a year, people are getting free food stamps or getting food stamps, and it's not fair. I don't like my tax dollars going toward that, but it's not just a Democrat thing. It's an American thing. I heard Newt Gingrich say, as I'm getting off subject somewhat like I usually do, that, Obama is the biggest food stamp president ever. Listen, people, let's not play games. This country was in dire straits in 2007, 2008, bleeding 700,000 jobs a month. I want to say like I always say, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I don't really care. I care about the truth only, and I also care about people they respect the president, and I have a problem with people that disrespects the president. I have stood and I have sit on this program and defended President George Bush. Why? Because he was the president of the United States of America. At the time, only 43 people, including himself, has held that position. And now 44. And when 44 people held a position of that nature, the highest office in the land, they deserve respect for holding the position, whether we like them or not. And I have defended President Bush because of that reason. May not agree with all the politics, but I respect the fact that he's the president of the United States. And I clearly believe in my heart that there's no respect for this president we have today from a lot of people, especially on the right. Why is that? I don't know. When the president is making a speech when he first was elected, I heard the guy holler, "You lie." What? Someone said that to the president of the United States? Whether you agree with politics or not, people, that was downright rude, downright ridiculous, and downright disrespectful. You got people like Rush Limbaugh said the other day that the president is a thug. You got Karl Rove said the president's acting like a thug. A thug? The president? Now some people might argue and say, oh, they said worse things about different other presidents and you guys didn't bring up a big deal. Like what? Can you tell me like what? I would like to know like what, because I'm actually a little bit older than I can remember. At least I can go back to the Nixon days. Well, in the Nixon days, I was really, really young, but I can remember enough as a teenager moving forward with some of these presidents that I didn't follow politics as much as I do today, but I followed enough over double-digit years to know that some of the stuff that has happened under the President Obama administration has been absolutely absurd. Most people can't even fix their mouth to call him President Obama. They keep calling him Obama all the time. They can't use the word president. I heard Mitt Romney say the other day, as I moved off the Martin Luther King thing, as you can tell, I'm moving into another subject. He said that the president, that there's no war on women, and that basically they were saying that the administration or whomever is saying that needs to stop saying that there's a war on women. I clearly remember not too long ago that the Republican Party has been saying that the President of the United States, President Obama, was striking up a war on religion. If you don't want the President or anybody in their cabinet or anybody that's on the left to talk about a war on women, saying that it's not fair to use that word, that terminology, then why is it that they were constantly saying that it was a war on religion? This went on and on and on. They bring the president. They said they didn't call him president, but they call him president. They say president. They don't say who he is. It's a funny thing about it. They either say president and don't say his name, or they call him just by his name and don't use the word president. They're having a hard time calling him President Obama. It's either one or the other, seems like. They can't seem to say both together for some strange reason. I don't know why is that. Maybe because, once again, people are disrespecting the president. I heard Joe Scarborough say the other day on the Morning Joe show. And it's some things that Joe Scarborough say I agree with, and some things I disagree with. I was offended by the fact that he was talking about Mitt Romney and talking about President Obama. And he said, well, which one would you want? A community organizer or a business guy that has ran multiple businesses? Well, first of all, if my education is up on the president, he went from being a United States Senator to the presidency. Not a community organizer. Was he a community organizer at one time? Yes, but he never went from being a community organizer to the presidency of the United States of America. So Mr. Scarborough, when making those statements and not clarifying, because what he said was that, well, what you want, a community organizer or Mitt Romney, a person that ran multiple businesses, was successful? Well, that's not the choice. The choice wasn't a community organizer or Mitt Romney. The choice was a United States Senator or Mitt Romney. That's really what the choice is. Governor Romney versus United States Senator. See, these are the things that people try to use little tricks, say things that ain't exactly right, and try to slide them by you if you're not paying attention. I'm very astute. I pay attention. I know what's being said. I hear it every day. I heard the guy say the other day that the gas price is the president's fault. The president wants the gas price to be up. That's ridiculous. Absurd, too. And I heard them say, well, the gas price was $1.89 and this and that when he took office. Listen, people, we're not that stupid. Those gas prices underneath George Bush were sky high. Were they like that when the president took office? No. Were they high under the Bush administration? Absolutely. Absolutely. If I'm not mistaken, I think they clipped the $4 mark. So for someone to go up here and just say that somehow the gas prices are only up during the President Obama's administration, it's absurd. Again, people, it's nothing wrong with disliking the president. There's nothing wrong with disliking the policies. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is when people start either out and out lying or downright have hatred for the man. A man that they don't personally know. They don't personally know anything about him. But yet they have actual hatred for the president. That's sad in this country. There go the boomerang effect again. There go that dreaded boomerang. Keeps coming back, doesn't it? We're in a sad situation when people are actually hating the President of the United States of America for no apparent reason. Now I have my suspicions on why they dislike him, and I don't care if people don't like my suspicions. And some people might say Roosevelt shows a lot about race. Well, you know what? This country is a lot about race. And I'm going to call it as I see it. And when I think misjustice is happening in this America, I'm going to say something about it. Now remember, presidential election is coming up in November. We're only a few months out. People, whether you're Republican or Democrat or Independent, get out and vote. Vote for whomever you believe is going to keep this country going in the right direction. Be that Mitt Romney, be that President Obama. I'm never going to tell anybody how to vote because it's not my place. But as long as I'm able to walk and talk and think clearly, I'm not going to sit back and allow things to be said and not say something about them. Now, I'm on a small scale, but I'm still fortunate enough to have a voice. There are still people listening. There are still people watching. There are still people going to agree, and there are people that are going to disagree. But that's okay. That's what makes this America and these United States great. That we can disagree as a group of people. We all are Americans. There is no such thing as President Obama being a African American president. Yes, if you have to describe the president, then I guess you would be forced to say that. But what's weird about it, we never talked about President Bush or Clinton and the other 43 presidents as being white presidents. If we never specified them being white, why do we specify him being non-white? That itself smacks of racism. It's not necessary to keep talking about President Obama as African American president. Why are we doing that? We never talked about the other 43 as Caucasian presidents. Why does his race come before his title? Their race didn't come before their title. That's a fact. Whether people like what I'm saying or not, those are facts. America needs to get away from that. He's the President of the United States of America. He's the Commander-in-Chief. There is no higher seat in the land than the one he sits in. And he's going to sit there until either A, he get voted out in 2012, or he's going to do another 4 years. Whichever, he's the president at this point. I respect that, and I will continue to respect that, like I respect every single president before him. And even though I heard a lady say I talk like a Democrat, no, I talk like I'm right. What does that mean? I'm on the side of right. I always have been and always will be. You know, this show comes to the end of the day. Once again, I'm Roosevelt, and I'm the host of Roosevelt Live. And remember, every day on this earth, you do the best you can for yourself first and your family, and then for others. Why? Because for every day that you live on this earth, you have one less day to live. Therefore, you need to live your life to the fullest. Give it all you got, because one day it's going to run out. I'm Roosevelt, and I'm your host of Roosevelt Live.